enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. On the day I gave birth to the heir, my screams of agony resonated through the halls, reaching a breaking point. The midwife's voice trembled as she declared, "The infant is too large. The delivery is difficult. If this drags on any longer, I fear we shall lose both mother and child." Victor arrived in a rush, his body weary and covered in the dust of the road. Everyone said I had married a good husband, but who could have known that the first words he spoke upon seeing me would be, "Lana Wang, let us divorce." Inside the birthing chamber, the metallic scent of blood had not yet dissipated, and the violent pain racking my body showed no sign of subsiding. A cold wind blew in from the open door, mingling with the fragile, shallow breathing of the newborn child. I lay there in a daze for a long time, so long that a trace of impatience finally flickered across his face. He called my name once more, and only then did I jolt back to reality. "After all," Victor said, his voice steady, "our marriage all those years ago was merely to honor the friendship between our parents. You married me to repay a debt of gratitude. Now that you have given birth to the heir, the friendship is honored, and the debt is paid. So, let us divorce." I stared blankly at his face, my voice barely a whisper as I slowly asked, "Is that all?" Victor paused for a moment before replying, "Bianca Lu, she cannot suffer the indignity of being a concubine." The last shred of doubt in my heart finally vanished, leaving behind only a pile of cold, dead ashes. So that is how it is. So that is the truth. Yes, of course, she is his true soulmate. Even if she were a woman of the brothel, Victor would absolutely never mistreat her. How laughable it is that, even at this moment, he still tries to argue with me that Bianca is different from other women of the pleasure quarters. She was originally a lady of a noble house who fell into misfortune and was forced into a life of shame. He argued passionately. Though her body was in the brothel, she kept her pride intact and her dignity unblemished. She used death to force them away, never letting anyone touch even a hair on her head. Do not look down on her. She is that chaste and fierce. If you hadn't been rescued back then, wouldn't you also be? The parents of the Shia family rushed in from behind and cut off his unfinished sentence. But it was too late. The damage was done. I blinked once, gave a bitter laugh, and finished his thought. Would I not also be a woman of the brothel? Perhaps I would even have to bend myself to please others, opening the door to welcome guests out of fear of death. Is that it? Victor realized he had misspoken, and a look of regret flashed in his eyes. He turned his face away. "I did not mean that. But my dear Lana, Bianca cannot be a concubine." "And what about me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I gave birth to his child in a near-death experience, and my reward is to be divorced." Victor was not wrong. I married him because of the friendship between our parents, and to repay a debt. The Wang family and the Xia family had been close friends for generations. How close? Roughly speaking, the children of the two families had been betrothed since childhood. Later, when the Wang family met with disaster, the Xia family never betrayed that bond. They saved me, the only surviving daughter. Following the engagement from years past, they arranged the marriage between me and Victor. At that time, I had no one to rely on. After being saved, my heart held only gratitude. Regarding Victor, my memories contained only the image of a little boy from my childhood who always favored and protected me. Every time I was teased by others, he would stand in front of me, scolding them until they were utterly shamed. When others told him not to meddle in other people's business, he would smile triumphantly. "What do you mean other people's business? This is my future wife. If you dare to bully my wife, you deserve a beating from me." After speaking, he would turn back and hand me a handkerchief. My eyes were brimming with tears, yet my face flushed red at his words. Who is your wife?" I would stammer. He knew no shame, answering calmly, "Lana is betrothed to me, so Lana is my wife. In this world, no one is allowed to bully my wife." He was clearly so young, yet his words were so bold, making me burst into laughter even while I was crying. Later, the Xia family moved away for business. On the day they departed, I followed my parents to see them off. I secretly stuffed a handkerchief into his hand. On it, clumsy and crooked stitches formed a colorful kite. He tilted his head to look at me, and I lowered my head to look at the ground, whispering, I embroidered it myself. Consider it a thank you gift, but truly, it is not beautiful at all." My beginner's hands were full of needle pricks, and my maidenly feelings were hidden within my sleeves along with them. When he didn't say anything, I panicked and spoke without thinking. "If you don't want it, throwing it away is fine too." His response was a soft chuckle. When I looked up, the carriage wheels had already started rolling. On the carriage, that young boy waved the handkerchief and called out loudly, "From now on, don't let people bully you anymore. If you can't beat them, then wait for me. Wait for me to come back and marry you. I will teach them a lesson for you." I believed him. And so, from then on, I was no longer bullied. If others relied on my timidity, I forged my courage. If others wanted to lay a hand on me, I would fight back even if it meant risking my life. Separated by many years, Victor and I met again exactly like that. A group of men pinned me down, trying to force me to receive guests. I fought them with everything I had. He had received a letter from the Shia parents and kicked the door open with a single strike. Even now, I still clearly remember the scene of that day. For many days, the despair of my family's downfall, and the shadow of my parents' deaths were all dispelled by the light flooding in from that doorway. He once said he would tell me to wait for him to return and marry me. He kicked away the man holding me, grabbed my hand, and shouted coldly, "Who gave you permission to touch her?" Young Master Shia still bore the same gallant and heroic demeanor as in the past. Even seeing me in such a wretched state, his expression did not change. He treated me just as before. He draped his coat over me and lowered his voice. "You are my sister Lana, aren't you? Don't worry." Before Uncle Wang passed away, he sent a letter to my parents. "It is safe now, everything is fine." I cried uncontrollably. There was only one difference: he had largely forgotten. He had forgotten the words about marrying me. So much so that when the engagement was mentioned again, he caused a huge scene. That was just a joke between elders. Besides, I was so young back then, how could I marry so early? Lana, I only consider her a younger sister. Young Master Shah, naturally charming, a lover of poetry and horse racing, had never thought of settling down or being bound by family. But the Shia parents had long wanted him to stabilize, and now that I had returned, getting married and starting a family was the perfect timing, and a perfect opportunity. So they came to beg me, tears streaming down their faces, talking about the generations of friendship between the two families, saying they had never mistreated me, and how much effort they had spent to save an orphaned daughter like me. If I married into the family, they certainly would not let me suffer any disadvantage. I asked the two elders, "Is Victor willing to marry me?" They were decisive. "He is willing," he said so himself. That day, the snow fell heavily. He came to ask me if I was willing to marry him. I saw not half a distinct affection in his eyes, but I remembered the day I cried, and he handed me a handkerchief. I remembered the colorful kite I embroidered, not very beautiful, the stitches clumsy and uneven, and I clung to that fragile hope after all. I asked, "Does Brother Victor have anyone in his heart that he loves?" He didn't understand why I asked, shook his head, and then asked me the same question. The smile on my lips faded a little, and I also shook my head. He thought he was marrying me only because of his parents' command, which he could not defy. He thought I was marrying him only because of the life-saving grace I could not fail to repay. But in the end it was 3 years. 3 years of time, painting eyebrows, reading, West Chamber. Together, he and I could be considered to respect each other, living in harmony like the zither and flute. Just missing a little bit more. I had thought that we would truly walk together like this for a lifetime. Yet today he says, "Lana, let us divorce." For once, I no longer maintained my usual submissiveness. Ignoring the presence of my in-laws, I asked him, "If that is the case, why didn't you tell me sooner? Why paint my eyebrows? Why read the same book with me? Why let me carry your child?" I almost wanted to go mad and interrogate him, but I couldn't. After the difficult birth, my blood and energy were severely depleted. Even a single question became weak and powerless. "After all, we have been husband and wife for 3 years," he said. "At that time, you had been pregnant for a while. If I had told you earlier, and if something unfortunate happened, it would inevitably harm you." I truly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I laughed because my husband still thought about not harming my body. I cried because he had thought for me to that extent, yet he still chose the exact moment I had just given birth to the child to speak of divorce. It can be seen that he had endured for a very long time. It can be seen that he truly loves that woman named Bianca to the extreme. Lana, your 3 years of time ultimately could not make that young man remember his original oath. The Shia parents were furious to the extreme. That day, they broke countless sticks beating him, so angry they cursed him as an unfilial son. But this time, Victor did not back down. He said, "Initially, the reason I compromised and married her was because I had no one I cared for or loved. But now that I have Bianca, I will absolutely not retreat. Even if I die, he continued, his voice resolute, the woman Victor loves must naturally be his wife. As for her, I already said I only consider her a sister. It was you who forced me to marry her. The commotion was not small, everyone in the manor knew about it. The birth of the heir should have been a joyous occasion, yet the Shia residence was a scene of desolation. Everyone knew that the young couple, who usually looked respectful and unusually affectionate, were actually like that because Victor did not love me. Everyone knew that while the young mistress was pregnant, the young master had saved a woman who jumped from a brothel building, using death to demonstrate her will. At first, he only wanted to save her life, redeem her, and arrange a place for her to stay. Later, he discovered that this woman was just like him, harboring ambitions in her heart, not the type of gentle and virtuous person who only knew how to manage the kitchen and be filial to in-laws, the so-called wooden person. They discussed the past and present together, pouring out their hearts to each other. The unrestrained young Master Shia finally found the woman of his heart one day, someone who could make him stop his wandering. Completely different from the person he married by his parents' order. The servants in the manor were cautious and wary around me. My parents-in-law dared not be harsh with me. As for me, I was unusually quiet. Every day, aside from caring for the child, I continued to embroider and rest as before. I don't know how many days passed. The sunlight outside the window was dazzling, making my eyes ache. I lifted my head, suddenly thinking of something. The child had grown up to look strangely like Victor. I hadn't had the chance to tell him this yet. Just then, the door was pushed open. "Madam, a guest is here asking to see you." The maid entered to report. Who was the guest? Actually, it wasn't hard to guess, just as Bianca was not surprised when I quickly allowed her in. Her appearance hidden under a conical hat was elegant and refined, but as soon as she opened her mouth, she said, "Miss Wang, please fulfill Victor and me. If this continues, he will be beaten to death by Master Shah." She didn't even bother to call me Madam Shah. As if I were the malicious villain separating a pair of lovebirds. I asked her if she knew beforehand that Victor already had a wife, and that his lawful wife was pregnant. She immediately replied, "If it weren't for considering that you were pregnant, fearing that knowing the truth would harm your health, Victor wouldn't have waited so long. As for the fact that you two are husband and wife, Victor didn't marry you voluntarily in the first place. Didn't you also marry him to repay a debt? Now, wouldn't a divorce be considered fulfilling each other?" Her eyes were resolute. She believed that giving everything for the person she loved was a matter of course, and thus they deserved to be together. "Miss Wang, in this world, being with the one you love is already difficult. Why haggle over such trivial matters? As for me, I am that trivial matter." I laughed out loud. Brother Victor indeed still cares for me as he did in our youth, even for a divorce. He waited until I finished giving birth before opening his mouth. "Miss Liu, you do not know, when we were small, he loved causing trouble the most. Whenever anyone bullied me, he would fight them for my sake." "Miss Wang." Bianca frowned upon hearing this. I acted as if I didn't hear her and continued. "He and I were even betrothed since childhood. The adults asked him if he was willing to marry Sister Lana. He said he was willing. I waited and waited for many years. Finally, he came. We became husband and wife, living in harmony." "Miss Wang." Bianca cut me off with a stern voice. I smiled again, pointing at the child sleeping soundly beside me, asking her, "Miss Liu, does my and his child look like him?" Finally, Bianca had the chance to speak. She replied indifferently, "Victor is a free spirit, he has saved countless people. The childhood engagement was merely a joke. If he truly had you in his heart, why wouldn't he remember those old stories? He doesn't remember anymore." I was like someone waking up from a nightmare. Silent for a moment, I didn't hit her, nor did I scold her. I just suddenly remembered that since the day I gave birth to the heir, more than a month had passed and my husband, the father of the child, had never come to look at him even once. "Miss Wang." A long time later, so long that Bianca couldn't wait for me to speak, she called out somewhat impatiently. She was anxious, wanting to risk everything with Victor to find a way to live, as if the only person obstructing them all along was me. The foolish, unreasonable lawful wife. I even saw her eyes tearing up from urgency, so I held out the handkerchief in my hand toward her. Suddenly, the door to the room was pushed violently open. "Bianca." The strong shove caused me to slam into the door, the pain pulling me back to reality. Victor rushed in, yet he didn't spare me a single glance. He only worriedly supported Bianca, asking if she was hurt. He took a handkerchief from his sleeve to wipe her tears. In his haste, other handkerchiefs fell, scattering onto the floor. Bianca paused for a moment, then quickly said, "I am fine. On the contrary, Miss Wang is." The surroundings suddenly fell dead silent. Victor only reacted then, turning his head abruptly to see me standing by the door, a flash of regret in his eyes. "Lana, The baby woke up and cried incessantly. I laughed through my tears and asked him, "Brother Victor, why do you still keep my handkerchief?" He looked confused. Young Master Xia, unrestrained and uninhibited, had many handkerchiefs. He had always stuffed them carelessly into his sleeves, so naturally, he didn't remember which one was given by whom, or which one was bought where. Just as he didn't remember that he had once told a young girl to obediently wait for him, and that he would definitely return to marry her. After Bianca left, I asked Victor, "In the past 3 years, have you ever had even a shred of true feeling for me?" He paused for a moment and then said, "You are filial to the elders, understand etiquette, are well, read and sensible. If I hadn't met Bianca, I think I would have accepted living with you like that for the rest of my life." "But you didn't," I countered. "If Bianca's appearance made you disregard everything else, did you not even care about the child?" He closed his eyes. "Back then, the doctor said your body was weak. If the child were lost, the damage would surely be great. I had no other choice. Lana, consider this matter as Victor wronging you." He drew his sword and handed it to me. "If you have resentment, I accept it. As for the child, after the divorce, I will still treat him kindly and absolutely will not show bias." I took the sword, looking at him acting as if death were lighter than a feather. At that time, he would rather die than stay married. As he wished, I stabbed down. He gave a soft groan, waiting for me to vent my anger. But the blade only pierced 3 inches before falling to the ground. He opened his eyes wide in surprise. My face was like dead wood, my voice so quiet it was almost inaudible. "Victor, let us divorce. Not husband, not cousin Xia, and not brother Victor, but Victor." Many years ago, that young man left and told me many things. He told me to wait for him, said he would marry me, said that if anyone bullied me, to wait for him to return, and he would fight back for me. The only thing he didn't say was, if the one bullying me was him, then what should be done? It was originally fated connection from our youth, originally a debt of saving a life. Now the fated connection has dissolved. As for that debt, I have been the young mistress of the Xia family for 3 years, filial to the in-laws, and given birth to the eldest grandson. Calculated anyway, it can be considered paid in full. The Xia parents were both angry and anxious, but after all, he was their own flesh and blood. Seeing Victor's desperate demeanor, they naturally softened. Their biased words carried persuasion. Why not elevate that woman to equal wife and not divorce? In this world, a man having 3 wives and 4 concubines is common. They sought me out to negotiate. For several days of uproar, beating was done, scolding was done. I still did not retreat half a step. With a heart so hard, the words of the 2 elders inevitably carried a few degrees of dissatisfaction. I did not refute them, only silently placed the child, who had just turned 1 month old, into their arms. That was the bloodline of the Xia family. Whether Victor would be biased or not, I didn't know, but the Xia parents were not so senile in their old age, they certainly would not let the child suffer. As for me, once I left, my fate was destined to be one of wandering. Taking him with me, aside from making him suffer, I could give him nothing. As for Victor, after I signed the divorce letter, for some reason, he fell silent for a long time. As if to compensate, he gave me quite a bit of wealth and even bought me a house in the east of the city. Everything was arranged properly. "Although you and I cannot be husband and wife, we can still be siblings." He chattered anxiously and endlessly. "Besides, the child is still here. Bianca has a kind heart and is easy to get along with. You can come back to visit anytime." I took the divorce letter and brushed past him. "No, I will not come back again." As the words fell, he stood stunned, watching my retreating figure. Madame Xia, holding her grandson, opened her mouth to speak. "Lana has a fierce temperament." What she said was merely out of anger. After all, there is still a child barely a month old. How could a mother not return to visit? Besides, that girl has always been deeply infatuated with you. She won't be gone for good. Only then did she reveal the reason why she hadn't stopped me from leaving earlier. "Wait until then, you just need to say a few soft words, say that you'll marry Bianca as an equal wife, while the position of mistress of the house is still hers. Won't she come back then?" Victor frowned, hesitating. "But Bianca and I truly love each other. How can we?" Madame Xia dismissed it. You aren't heartless toward Lana either. You are the eldest son of the family. Men out there with a status like yours, who doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines. My son is broad-minded. You don't want to fail Madame Lu, but don't let Lana suffer either. After all, she is still a daughter of the Wang family. Over the years, she has been filial to us, managed the household, and even bore you in hair. She continued. Although she is a bit fierce, let her suffer a little sharpening this time. Wait until she understands your goodness and returns, she will surely understand. Being a young mistress, the most important thing is to be generous. One cannot monopolize a husband for a lifetime. When that time comes, don't haggle with her anymore. Welcome her home and live well just as before. This is also your father's intention. Madame Xia arranged everything perfectly, feeling no guilt towards me, and even brought Master Xia out as support. Finally, she caused Victor, who always considered himself devoted, to waver. Clearly, yesterday he was firmly speaking of true love with Bianca, but today he awkwardly and slowly said, "If so, that is fine. Bianca is not like Lana, she is generous and open-minded. Surely she won't be petty like Lana." Thinking of this, he finally paid attention to the child in Madame Xia's arms. Speaking of which, since he learned I was pregnant, he had met Bianca, all his affection was poured onto her. If not for thinking that a miscarriage would cause great harm to my body, I fear this child would hardly have been kept. Not to mention, after I gave birth, Victor rushed to secure a status for Bianca. Feeling guilty and afraid to face me, he ran here and there every day. Calculating carefully, it was his first time being a father, yet this was the first time he looked closely at his firstborn son. The child born of our 3 years as husband and wife. Just as I had said, though the child was still small, the lines of his brows and eyes truly resembled him. A ripple of emotion rose in his heart, and he reached out, taking the handkerchief from his sleeve to poke the baby. Seeing the baby giggle, the corners of his lips also curled up, and he asked unconsciously, "What name did Lana give the child?" "He doesn't have a name yet," Madame Xia replied. Victor didn't react in time. "She hasn't named the child." Thud. The handkerchief fell to the ground. Victor's expression froze. He didn't understand why, but subconsciously, he remembered the sentence I said when leaving. "I will not come back again." A trace of panic briefly rose in his heart. Beside him, Madame Xia, not understanding, explained, "Lana loves you so much, she surely wanted to save the name, waiting for you to come and name the child. Since you are here now, name the little one." That's right. Everyone outside can see that Lana loves him to the bone. No resentment, no regret. Meticulous and thorough. She continued to rationalize, so how could Lana not return? Lana must be angry. Thinking about it carefully, this matter was indeed not thought through by him. He only worried about Bianca being miserable and helpless, rushing to give her a status, yet forgetting that Lana also suffered grievances. Mother is right, since ancient times, men having 3 wives and 4 concubines is common. He just likes one more person, marrying her as an equal wife is reasonable and fair. Lana, with the status of young mistress, should have been generous. Leaving this time is nothing more than excessive anger. Wait a few days for her to cool down, and she will naturally return. When that time comes, he will calmly apologize and Lana will certainly soften. Most importantly, the Wang family has long been broken, only Lana is left so. Besides the Xia family, where else can Lana go? Victor's heart suddenly felt lighter. He looked at the child and said, "Then let's call him Felix." Felix Xia. Felix. Lana will definitely like this name. He happily picked up the handkerchief. On that handkerchief, a colorful kite was embroidered. The stitches were not very exquisite, looking at a glance like the handiwork of a beginner. At some point, he had forgotten. After all, in these years, he either wandered the pugilistic world or went south for business. The people and things he encountered were countless. Over time, things that were not too important naturally faded away. This handkerchief was just like that. Several times he had wanted to throw it away. It was just a handkerchief, which he never lacked. But he didn't understand why. Every time that thought arose, he ultimately couldn't bear to throw it. It seemed this handkerchief was truly no ordinary object. It was just that. What it represented, he had long forgotten. He only remembered that no matter what, it should not be thrown away. 1 month later, the Xia family welcomed Bianca with immense fanfare. Victor seemed to have completely thought things through. He loved Bianca's free spirit and shared ambitions, but during the past 3 years, he had also developed feelings for me, his gentle and submissive wife. Therefore, he did not want to fail anyone. He reasoned that what I had when I married, Bianca should also have. Likewise, the affection Bianca once received, He would make up to me when I returned. He is the eldest son of the Shia family, the future head of the household. What is wrong with marrying 2 wives? When that time comes, he told himself, Lana will be the young mistress, and Bianca will be the equal wife. It is the best of both worlds. However, it seemed he had never mentioned these intentions to Bianca beforehand. So much so that on their wedding night, amidst the flowery candles and the bridal chamber, Bianca's face was radiant with joy, but after hearing his plan, everything turned to dust. I only learned of this matter a long time later. I only know that on their wedding night, the night she disregarded everything, insisting on snatching Victor even knowing he had a pregnant wife, passed with little joy. This was not surprising. After all, years ago, when she stormed in front of me, swearing and begging me to fulfill her and Victor's love, she had been so certain. In this life, I have nothing left, only Victor's love, she had declared. I love him, and he loves me, so we are meant to be together. What about you, Miss Wang? Your husband does not love you, yet you do not have even half a shred of dignity to divorce him. What is the use of clinging on relentlessly? So what if you are the wife whom Victor loves, that person is his true wife? She had sneered then. He doesn't love you. Sooner or later, he will divorce you. Since that is the case, why not fulfill us? When she spoke those words, her face was full of arrogance. Her eyes looked at me with both pity and self-righteousness. As she wished, my dignity grew. I divorced him and fulfilled them. It was just that she seemed to have forgotten that a man's love can be split into 2 halves. When the man she assumed was her soulmate told her that she not only had to share his love equally with another woman, but also had to live in harmony with that person, one can imagine that the wedding night was indeed far from perfect. For instance, less than half a month into the marriage, Victor and she argued again over a very small matter. Victor was truly angry. Clearly, when they lived in the separate courtyard outside, their life was incredibly passionate and affectionate. But after marrying into the house, without me present, Bianca took over the management of the inner household in my place. She had no heart for it, naturally performing the tasks clumsily and awkwardly. With Madame Shah busy looking after the eldest grandson, no one helped her. In less than half a month, everything in the inner household was a tangled mess. Victor, busy all day, returned only to help her clean up the chaos. Naturally, his complaints grew day by day. Previously, when Lana was at home, the inner household was arranged properly by her. He scolded. If you don't understand it, that's fine, but why refuse to let her come back? Furthermore, I am the head of the family. What is wrong with having 3 wives and 4 concubines? Don't forget, initially, you also wronged Lana. Bianca, since when did you become so calculating? Victor shook his head, full of disappointment. Do you know that right now? You don't look a bit like the free, spirited woman who used to discuss everything under the sky with me. You two seem completely different. Bianca's face turned pale. She looked at the person opposite her in disbelief. Victor, how can you say that about me? You see, even for a celestial couple, once they encounter the mundane issues of rice, oil, and salt, things will change. Victor knew he had misspoken. Though disappointed in his heart, after all, she was still the person he loved, and he couldn't bear to make a big fuss. Right at this moment, he suddenly particularly missed the gentle and thoughtful Lana of yesteryear. And what young Master Shah wanted, he had to have immediately. So, he turned and went straight to the courtyard house he had bought for me. It has been so long, surely her anger has subsided, he muttered to himself. At most, I will apologize to Lana. Lana loves me so much, she will definitely follow me back. Then, Bianca won't need to worry about these household matters anymore. Everything will return to the way it was, everyone will return to their proper places, not this messy chaos like now. As for whether I would agree to go back with him, he hadn't thought about it at all. After all, didn't we still have a child still in swaddling clothes? As soon as Victor dismounted, he couldn't wait and banged loudly on the courtyard gate. The commotion was huge, causing the owner who came to open the door to have an extremely unpleasant expression. Who are you? Why are you banging on a private residence? The man demanded. Victor's reaction was even more intense. He looked guardedly at the man in front of him. A frail scholar with a cold voice. Who are you? Where is Lana? Where is Lana? Who is the owner of this house? I want to see her. Lana. Which Lana? The scholar didn't understand. This house was sold to me a month and a half ago. At that time, there was a little lady who looked like she had lost her soul. After selling this house to me for a very low price, she turned and left without looking back. Left. Victor's expression shattered. He asked in panic, Where did she go? When will she return? The scholar looked at him as if looking at a fool. She sold the house and left. Naturally, she won't be coming back. As for where she went, who are you? On what grounds must I tell you? Bang! The door slammed shut, as if a loud explosion also went off in Victor's head. At this moment he finally understood I was truly not coming back. It was not out of anger, nor was it a game of hard to get, but simply that I didn't need him anymore. Along with the child, I didn't need any of it anymore. Shopkeeper, are we ready? If so, let's hit the road. At that time, I was following a merchant caravan heading west. Currently, the imperial court was expanding the Silk Road. Merchant caravans came and went endlessly. However, traveling with the identity of a woman was ultimately unsafe. So I smeared dirt on my face, disguised myself as a young merchant boy, spent some silver to organize a team of merchants, and began learning the silk trade. I cannot say it was smooth sailing, but I never suffered any major losses. This wasn't because my luck was particularly good, but mainly because I hadn't acted on a whim. I had prepared beforehand. During the month Victor made a fuss to give Bianca a status. I also thought things through thoroughly for a whole month. Compared to wasting a lifetime begging for a man, it is better to cut off the tail to save oneself. Mending the fold after the sheep is lost is still not too late. If the young man from years past, who once made me wait bitterly for him to marry me, has had a change of heart, why should I pity myself? I do not know how many wives and concubines the Shia family rules allow, but I am a daughter of the Wang family. My parents had only each other for their entire lives. They raised me, Lana, like a precious pearl or jade, not so I could live and die for a man, bowing down to be a lesser wife. Since he doesn't love me, I won't force it. The childhood engagement, the life-saving grace, the soulmate mistress, the equal wife, the divorce. What he owes me, what I owe him, is already a tangled mess. I can't be bothered to sort it out anymore. One divorce letter, one cut to end it all. The Wang and Xia families were close friends, and naturally, both were established merchant households. Being the only daughter of the Wang family, I had watched and learned since childhood, so when I started doing business, I was quite sharp. Therefore, after leaving the Xia family, I was only downcast for a moment before I made up my mind to leave. That scholar surnamed Wu was someone I met at that time. He was a candidate preparing for the spring imperial examination, needing a place to stay but lacking funds in his pocket. Residences that were both quiet and decent were hard to find. Coincidentally, he was overly kind-hearted. Seeing the boss who was buying my house deliberately suppressing the price to make things difficult, he stepped in, unable to ignore the injustice. The result, needless to say, was that he was not only pushed down rolling on the ground, but his books also scattered all over the dirt. I bent down to pick one up, seeing neat and orderly annotations on it. I looked at the scholar lying sprawled on the ground with two swollen eyes and spoke up. "Young master, you can't sleep here." He thanked me. I found him a place where he could sleep. He looked at that courtyard house, then remembered the price I had offered, finding it incredibly hard to believe. I smiled calmly. I am in a hurry to sell it anyway, might as well give it cheaply to someone else. Better to form a good karmic connection. Is it because of the young lady's heartless husband? He asked very cautiously. What he knew was all told by the boss who wanted to suppress the price. Roughly, it was just that I, a solitary orphaned girl, didn't know my place. It was a blessing of 8 lifetimes that the Shah young master agreed to marry me. Yet I dared to be haughty, refusing to let him marry an equal wife or take a concubine. So being chased away with a divorce letter was what I deserved. The words were so ugly that even an outsider like him couldn't stand it and had to draw his sword to help, metaphorically speaking. I nodded. He scolded angrily. They say righteousness is often found among butchers, and heartlessness is mostly found among scholars. How can that person be even worse than a scholar? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I didn't expect someone to scold others while incidentally scolding themselves like that. Seeing that I wanted to sell the house, he feared I might do something foolish, so he beat around the bush. So, the young lady has no husband's family left, and no maiden family either. Where do you plan to go in the future? I took the silver he handed me, turned around, and walked straight away without looking back. That small courtyard had confined me for nearly half my life. With the world so vast, was there really no place for me to stay? The Silk Road is very long. The desert winds vast and endless. Several times I almost lost my life in the Yellow Springs. To say I left decisively, carefree and unburdened, was actually all a lie. Looking back at the first half of my life, raised in the boudoir, then married and giving birth. Victor occupied half of it. From the thoughts of a young girl to the affection of husband and wife after marriage, how could one say, let go, and simply let go? But precisely in those moments of being buried in sand and mud, struggling to escape, those moments of being chased by bandits on the road and escaping death by a hair's breadth, those times on the business field battling wits, almost losing everything and then reviving. When I looked back, Victor seemed like a story from a past life. The red dust rolls on. Infatuated men and resentful women are countless. Finally, I escaped from this sea of love and sky of hate. Returning to Yunzhou was already 7 years later. My business on the Silk Road had finally gained a firm foothold, growing larger and larger. Now everyone knew of a formidable female boss, with numerous subordinates, who could be said to be the wealthiest in the region. The reason I could return to Yunzhou this time was entirely because of Warren Wu. The candidate from years ago preparing for the spring examination finally got his wish. Occasionally, he still exchanged letters with me, so I learned that he had become an official in Yunzhou. He wanted to create some achievements, so he offered to be a bridge for me to exploit the market. The common people of Yunzhou would benefit, and the merchant circles here could also catch up with the Silk Road route. It was beneficial without harm, so naturally, I had no reason to refuse. As for meeting those old acquaintances, it was inevitable. I just didn't expect that the first person I would meet would be Bianca. Warren and I hadn't met for many years. It was a rare reunion, and we both lamented greatly. After a few polite greetings, we went out together to survey the situation of the merchants in Yunzhou. He sought to be a better official, I sought to earn more silver. Two people purely obsessed with their careers, without a hint of slack. However, just as I stepped out of a fabric shop, I was slammed into by a child. The child's strength was not small. If Warren hadn't supported me with a hand, I fear I would have fallen and passed out just like he did on the street years ago. Yet before I could even cry, the child was about to cry first. Even so, though he wanted to cry, he bit his lip tightly, tensing his immature face. He tried to maintain his dignity and asked me, "Lady, are all right? I didn't mean to just now. If it hurts you can cry. I won't laugh. I will take you to see a doctor." His adult-like manner made me want to both laugh and feel touched. I took off a small bell I bought in the western regions and coaxed him. "I am fine. What about you? If you don't cry, I'll give this to you to play with." The exquisite little bell kept the child's eyes glued to it, but he still remembered to pout. "Felix is a man, what does this little pain count for? I am not afraid." Hearing that name, my hand suddenly trembled violently. Immediately after, my hand was tightly grabbed by someone. Looking up, I saw a face that was somewhat ferocious, twisted by obsession. "It is you. You came back." Lana, she almost ground out every word. I had to try very hard to recognize the person before me from that face. Raising an eyebrow, "Bianca. This really couldn't be blamed on me. 7 years. Long if you say long, short if you say short. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be to the point of being completely unrecognizable. But compared to the arrogant and self-satisfied Bianca of 7 years ago, the of the present had truly changed too much. Before, she claimed she was born not needing adornment, disdaining to please any man, so she only ever wore a light layer of powder on her face. But now, the white powder was laid on thick, her red lips painted with bright vermilion, from a clear water hibiscus. She had turned into a gaudy peony. But this wasn't the most important thing. The biggest change was that the person who used to be the most arrogant and conceited, her eyes were now filled with insecurity and resentment, making even her eyebrows and gaze look strangely ferocious. "I hear my name called correctly." Her voice became increasingly shrill. "Sure enough, it is you. You came back. You still want to fight for Victor with me, don't you? What a waste that years ago I thought you were something good. Who knew you were so deeply malicious, retrieving to advance, making Victor unable to forget you. But so what? Lana, don't think you can win. I am not the me of the past and I will not let you get what you want." I frowned, silently pulling my hand away, and spoke up. "Miss Liu, you cannot just because you suffer from delusions assume that others are the same." Unexpectedly, her emotions became even more agitated. "Save your breath and stop playing dumb. Don't think I don't know, you were just waiting for this day. Pretending to leave for so many years, making Victor think you would never return, giving birth to guilt in his heart so he would never forget you. Waiting for the child to grow up, using the excuse of the child to righteously return to the Xia family." She continued her tirade. "I tell you, don't even think about it. This is your revenge, isn't it? You resented that Victor and I were in love, so you viciously plotted to cause a rift between him and me over these years because of you. Lana, what are you pretending to be noble for? You say I have delusions, what about you? I didn't deny it. I used to have them too. That is an illness that needs curing. Now I am cured. Do you need me to introduce a doctor for you? She looked exactly as if her illness had reached the terminal stage. I don't know which sentence provoked her, but she almost went mad. Brandishing her claws, she lunged at me. Slut, you are truly a slut. Acting wildly in broad daylight, right on the main street. Warren had gone to great lengths to invite me to Yunzhou. Now, with the work not yet done, on his territory, right in front of him, she dared to offend his honored guest. If he still didn't stand up and say a word, then he truly felt his face hadn't been slapped hard enough. However, in the end, his worry was superfluous, because just as Bianca was about to touch me, the late arriving Victor finally stepped forward in time, blocking her. Stop it. But even without him, it would have been fine. Stella, who had followed me rushing north and south, had already slid a dart out of her sleeve, whispering, Sister Lana, are you all right? I raised my hand, she immediately understood, retracted her killing intent, and retreated behind me. 7 years passed, the stars moved and the world changed, the old acquaintances have all gathered. Victor and I stood opposite each other, looking into each other's eyes. Finally meeting again, he looked much older. The romantic and dashing young Master Xia of the past had now become the type of middle-aged merchant he used to despise the most. When he saw me, his eyes turned red, his voice trembling. Lana, you came back. He muttered to himself, you finally came back. You don't know, these years I have searched for you for so long. Nights I couldn't sleep peacefully, days living in fear for you, just afraid that wandering outside you might encounter some accident. Even my parents were always worried for your safety. I wanted to speak. Actually, there is no actually, or what if. He was so happy he shed tears, reaching out to hold my hand. Anyway, it is all in the past, it is not important anymore. Lana, let's go home, I'll take you home. I finally found an opening my mouth. Victor. Just the next second. No, Victor, don't you dare. Bianca, held back by Victor, heard this and her face turned ferocious, struggling with a shrill voice. As long as I live one day, this slut don't dream of stepping into the Xia family even half a step. All these years you treated me harshly because of her, I would rather die than let her live in peace. Bianca, are you crazy? Lana has returned, how much more trouble do you want to make? It was truly a rare sight. Victor, the man who years ago dared to speak of divorce to me just to give Bianca a status, today could coldly shout down the person in front of him. If this were 7 years ago, it would truly be no different from the sun rising in the west. So Bianca laughed loudly and incessantly. I'm crazy. Yes, I am crazy. I was driven crazy by you people. Victor looked disgusted. Mad woman. I raised my hand. A slap for each of them. Slap, slap. 2 loud sounds, showing the force was not light, successfully silencing the entire scene. Everyone's eyes turned to me in unison. My expression remained calm as I adjusted my slightly ruffled sleeves and slowly spoke up. You too, can you let me say a few words now? You hit me. Bianca covered her face and rushed forward. You dare hit me. I grabbed her hand and gave her another slap, laughing coldly. I hit you because I wanted to. Do I need to pick a lucky day for that? Bianca, don't forget that back then, you knew clearly he had a lawful wife yet still shamelessly threw yourself at him, crying and begging me to fulfill your wishes. Now I have fulfilled them, and you got what you wanted. So why go crazy at me? Victor wanted to open his mouth. I backhanded him another slap. I pointed straight at him, my voice icy. And you? On that divorce letter, you signed your name with your own hand. Since 7 years ago, between you and me, there has been no husband and wife status whatsoever. So what right do you have to criticize whether I should return or not? Bianca is not a good person, but are you anything good yourself? I looked at the two of them with their different expressions and warned, right now, I and you, husband and wife, are strangers. If you dare to come forward and make trouble again, slandering randomly, then don't blame me for taking this to court. 2 crazy people, not looking in the mirror to see what you are. The Lana of 7 years ago was blind seeking the blind, but the Lana of 7 years later no longer suffered from delusions. Bianca was unwilling. Who do you think you are? Warren, who had been forgotten standing on the side all this time, finally darkened his face, almost gritting his teeth as he said, this official also wants to ask who you two are. Who allowed you to disturb the guest invited by this official? Two people were surrounded by bailiffs. The farce abruptly ended. Seeing the government office step in to take them away, the others didn't dare stay to watch the excitement anymore. It was just that while Warren was constantly apologizing to me, the child standing beside me suddenly opened his eyes wide, asking in a childish voice, "Father calls you Lana, you are Lana, so you are my mother, right?" My body froze. In the end, I turned to look at him. The child wasn't big, but he was cared for very attentively. After all, he was the eldest grandson of the Shia family, raised by the Shia parents themselves. No matter what, he couldn't have lived badly. His wet nurse Invictor rushed over. Seeing me, she immediately bowed respectfully. "Miss." As she spoke, she secretly tried to lead Felix away. "Young master, the old madam is looking for you, let's go home." But that child stood still, not moving an inch, the rims of his eyes red, tears welling up. He looked at me, choking with emotion. "You are my mother. You are my mother." "Mother, why didn't you want me anymore?" "Grandmother said you would come back, but I waited for a long, long time. I waited until even that new mother said you were dead, and I still couldn't wait for you." The child who refused to cry when bumped earlier now had tears rolling down from the corners of his eyes. I remained silent for a long time, finally sighing and stepping forward to rub his head. "It is me. Don't cry anymore." He hugged my waist tightly, crying out loud, "Mother. I know what outsiders think of me, nothing more than being too cruel, not even wanting my own flesh and blood. For so many years not asking or inquiring, searching the whole world for mothers. Is there anyone as cold and heartless as I am?" To be honest, there was that moment, right when the tear fell from Felix's eye. I almost thought about taking him away. But he was indeed worthy of being Victor's son. Half the blood flowing in his body was Victor's. When he saw me gently wiping his tears and calling his name, he said happily, "Mother, you came to pick me up. Our family of 3 can be together again. Father has waited for you for so long. Every time he gets drunk, he runs into your room. Father doesn't let in call Bianca mother, he only allows me to acknowledge you. Mother, let's go home." The gentle look in my eyes went completely cold. Without hesitation, I pushed him away. Amidst his stunned expression, I spoke up. "No, I am not your mother." When Felix was carried away by the wet nurse, his crying was extremely chaotic, as if he had suffered the greatest grievance in the world. He cried and scolded me for being cold and heartless, saying he would never acknowledge me again. Grandmother was right, Lana is a vicious woman. For her own freedom and pleasure, she didn't even care about her own biological child. I accepted it all calmly. The people standing by watching revealed looks of awkwardness. Warren said apologetically, "This official did not expect to encounter such people. Miss Wang, this time it was this official who did not host you properly." I smiled and shook my head. I truly do not mind. He had never seen my wretched and downcast state when I left the Shia family 7 years ago, so he hesitated to ask. Finally, he spoke softly. "That child looked very attached to you, so, even just for the child, will you not return?" I watched the figures of the wet nurse and the child gradually disappearing from sight, smiled, and replied, "I will not return. Official Wu, let us continue discussing business. I haven't forgotten I came here to earn more silver." As for the news of Victor and Bianca being arrested reaching the ears of the Shia parents, they almost immediately rushed around to bail them out. After all, the face of the Shia family could not be lost. As for me, the main business I came to do proceeded in an orderly fashion. At the same time, the old stories between the Shija family and me from 7 years ago were dug up and spread everywhere. Wherever I went, it was hard to avoid whispering gossip. Stella was so angry she ground her teeth. If I hadn't stopped her, the darts in her hands would have bloomed flowers on someone's face. Truly heartless people. Truly the Shia family. Stella raged. "We never knew before that Sister Lana suffered such great grievances back then. If the brothers and sisters down below knew, they would surely turn the Shia family upside down." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's just old history, it's all past. I no longer care, so why must you be angry? Hearing this, Stella's voice became even more urgent. "But Sister Lana, that child, do you really not want him anymore?" "I don't want him anymore, but it wasn't I who abandoned him first." Just then, I heard the servant come to report a guest. Finally, it was said that he had abandoned me first. The guest sat in the main hall, looking graceful and noble. Although years had passed, she had not lost half of the imposing manner of the old madam of the Shia family from years ago. The only difference was that back then, whenever she met me, she would always smile gently and call out, "Little Lana, come here, let me take a look." But now, she only glanced sideways, her voice cold. You are here. Whether back then or today, I have always followed etiquette. I, Lana, pay my respects to Madame Xia. My politeness and distance were no less than hers. A crack appeared on her face as she gritted her teeth, saying, Lana, your mother and I were old friends. You were also once my daughter-in-law. Today, must you be estranged from me to this extent? Having rolled in the business world for many years, my ability not to be bound by emotional blackmail could be said to be impeccable. I answered bluntly, as Madame Xia looking for me not to condemn me. Having her intentions exposed, Madame Xia lost face and huffed coldly. Sure enough, after a few years outside, your wings have hardened, you dare to be so rude to your elders. Lana, let me ask you, years ago, when my son divorced you, didn't you agree to it with your own mouth? So why, upon returning today, do you harbor hatred in your heart, almost causing him to land in prison? I replied, then why doesn't Madame Xia ask your son and daughter-in-law why they entangled with another person in the middle of the street, clinging endlessly like dogs in heat? Madame Xia was furious to the extreme, sharp-mouthed. That is my son being nostalgic for old feelings. Over the years, you have had not half a shred of womanly virtue, heartlessly abandoning your child, and leaving without looking back. My son is generous and kind, he has always remembered you. I don't know what bewitching potion you gave him to make his home unstable, even after he remarried. She continued her tirade. Back then, I even felt guilty for letting him divorce you. Now, thinking back, as a young mistress, you couldn't even tolerate an equal wife. Being so jealous, Victor not wanting you serves you right. I don't know how your mother taught you. Madame Xia. My voice rose a pitch higher, she immediately stopped. Facing my cold gaze, she subconsciously looked away. My words rang in her ears, word by word. Back then, you criticized my mother for only giving birth to me, a single daughter, and advised my mother to let my father take a concubine to continue the lineage. Those matters were the affairs of elders. I am a junior and it is not my place to speak much. Letter, the Xia family indeed had the grace of saving my life. For 3 years as a wife, I was filial to the in-laws, assisted my husband, raised the child, worked hard without complaint. I have examined my conscience and feel no shame before anyone in the Xia family. But Victor insisted on marrying another as an equal wife, humiliating me. So what was wrong with me divorcing him? Even the divorce, didn't you all implicitly allow it? Why is it that today, through your mouths, it becomes me being cold, heartless, jealous, and lacking virtue? Madame Xia slammed the table. Which man's household doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? Other people's households having 3 wives and 4 concubines has nothing to do with me. I, Lana, do not want to share a husband with others, so that divorce letter was signed decisively without hesitation. My mother taught me propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. Poetry and literature. I have a clear conscience. Madame Xia, do not drag the deceased into this. But Victor ultimately loves you, she stammered. Over the years, he and the Lu woman have argued endlessly. After you returned and didn't meet him, he drank every day. Felix is also there. I am indifferent. What he wants to do, how does it concern me? I didn't force him. Madame Xia's face turned a few shades paler, struggling to say, the Xia family, after all, has the grace of saving your life. I looked at her coldly. If it weren't for that, do you think the Xia family could still be living peacefully today? Her eyes widened. She was so angry she nearly couldn't breathe, and finally, she had to retreat in defeat. The next morning, the news that I almost angered my former mother-in-law to death spread everywhere. Following that, business dealings with merchants were affected to some extent. Stella ground her teeth while sharpening her darts. Playing such underhanded tricks. Why don't I just call the brothers in the gang to kill them off with one blade stroke? I clicked the abacus beads, not even bothering to lift my head. The Xia family are business people. Madame Xia hasn't reached the point of senility yet. She knows clearly I have cooperation with the government office behind me, yet still came to cause trouble. So the person doing this is surely not the head of the Xia family. So who is it? I seemed to hear the sound of someone screaming and struggling somewhere, and suddenly thinking of something, I asked Stella, recently, is Master Xia not in Yunzhou? She had inquired about the situation of the Xia family after learning of my past, so hearing this, she nodded. Then it's no wonder. Madame Xia was angered into sickness by me yesterday, and Master Xia is not in Yunzhou. In the end, the remaining ones have all gathered in this courtyard I temporarily bought. Bianca was brought in, hands tied and mouth gagged. Victor's face was full of a look seeking credit. Lana, this poisonous woman harmed you. Now I have tied her up and brought her to you. Handle her as you wish. Weren't you angry at her? Now I have divorced her. I know I was wrong. I also remembered that the colorful kite handkerchief was a gift from you. Let's go home. A family reunion. And Felix, who looked exactly like him, chimed in. Mother, the bad woman has been caught. Can mother forgive father? He and I both miss you very much. He tugged at the hem of my clothes, acting coquettishly. Bianca, tied up, looked wretched and miserable, half crazy, with none of the aloof arrogance of the past, like a dead dog thrown at my feet by the very man she loved most. They waited for me to smile brilliantly, waited for me to revel in my revenge. But I only looked coldly at the big one, and the small one opposite me, shook off his hand, and pushed him away, disgusted to the extreme. Get lost. The smiles on the corners of both their mouths froze. Victor probed. Lana, why are you unhappy? If it weren't for her in the beginning, we wouldn't have reached the point of divorce. Now she is spreading rumors to tarnish your reputation. I did this all for your own good. And this handkerchief. He anxiously took out the handkerchief embroidered with the 5-colored kite, seemingly wanting to prove something. Don't you remember? I am Victor. I am your brother Victor. I frowned, the disgust in my eyes unconcealed. It is precisely because I remember that I find it so nauseating. Victor, Lana, back then, I was truly blind. How could I have liked a piece of trash like you? Victor took a heavy blow. Lana, I closed my eyes, my bone, chillingly cold. Victor, if you dared to act and dared to admit it, admitting that you are narrow-minded, hiding a mistress while your wife was pregnant, divorcing your wife who just gave birth, because you wanted to marry the mistress, I would still regard you a bit higher, seeing you as a true villain. But I absolutely did not expect you could whitewash yourself to this extent. What do you mean? Was it Bianca who forced you into her bed, or forced you to divorce your lawful wife? Wasn't it you yourself who claimed to be infatuated, wanting to be with her even if you died? Why have you changed your mind now and blamed all the mistakes on others? I continued. I already said, Bianca seducing a married man is not a good person, but Victor, you are the ringleader who caused everything. You are even less of a decent thing. Back then, you were still high-spirited, daring to hand me a sword to stab you. You could be considered a petty man who dared to act and accept the consequences. I didn't expect that after 7 years, your arrogance would be worn clean away, leaving only a pile of trivial chicken feathers and a coward who dares to act but not admit it. Victor was spoken to until he hung his head low, pleading, then what must I do for you to forgive me? I laughed coldly. 7 years ago, one cut severed everything. Where do the words forgive you come from? His face turned completely ashen gray, muttering, Lana, do we truly have no destiny in this life anymore? No. He looked up abruptly, his eyes full of hope. I am saying decisively in the next life, and the life after that, forever and ever, Lana will never entangle with you again, not even for half a moment. He is not reconciled. But you loved me to the bone, how can you say change and then change? If you don't love me, then why did you give birth to Felix for me? Felix stood in front of him, protecting him against me. Mother, you cannot blame father, it is all that bad woman's fault. Father was deceived, father already knows he was wrong. As soon as he opened his mouth, Stella, who had held back for so long, finally couldn't take it anymore and rolled up her sleeves. You are Sister Lana's child, why do you speak up for that heartless man, and instead turn around to blame your own mother? She doesn't love me. Felix was stubborn, crying as he spoke. If she truly loved me, why did she leave me alone and go? All these years, the ones by my side were grandfather and grandmother. The one teaching me to read and write was father. Father even forbade me from speaking ill of mother, saying mother must have her own hardships. On the contrary, it is her. As if pouring out all the grievances accumulated over 7 years, he pointed at me and shouted loudly, when I suffered grievances, where were you? When I was hungry and cold, where were you? When others laughed at me for being abandoned by my own mother, where were you? You were enjoying yourself in freedom and pleasure for so many years. You returned to Yunzhou, yet you didn't even come to look at me once. I begged, and you still wouldn't come back. Enjoying herself in freedom and pleasure. Stella glared with angry eyes. What a clever mouth. Lana has been alone all these years, rushing north and south, countless times almost dying on the road. She continued, her voice trembling with rage. When she was laughed at for being a woman with an improper status, when she was hungry and cold rushing on her journey, when she nearly died and couldn't survive. Where were you people? Even if for the past year she has just gained a footing and lived a bit more stably. Speaking of enjoying freedom and pleasure, who can compare to you people over the past 7 years? Your greatest grievance was just missing half a meal. Have you ever thought about how your mother struggled to survive out there? If she truly didn't love you, she would have taken you away long ago. That way, you wouldn't have survived more than a year. She was a martial artist, her aura blazing. Felix, after all, was just a 7-year-old child. He was scared until his face turned pale. I pulled Stella's hand back. She turned her face away, her eyes red. Sister Lana, it's not that I intend to interfere in your business, but they are truly bullying people too much. Over the years, you suffered enough hardships without uttering a single complaint. On the contrary, they lived freely and happily, yet turned around to blame you. Truly bastards, I smiled, reaching out to wipe her tears. Good girl, I know your kind heart. Now, leave the rest to me. It is also truly laughable. The one who tied the knot with me as husband and wife, and the child I carried for 10 months to give birth to. Both are blaming me for being malicious and selfish. Conversely, a woman of the pugilistic world whom I've known for merely 7 years is the first to feel pain for my hardships. I walked in front of Felix. This child looked exactly like Victor when he was born. Now that he's grown a bit, he looks even more like him. Even the root of sin flowing in his blood is no different. I put away my smile, looking down at him from above, and spoke, not with heartache, nor with regret. Do you know why I divorced back then? Felix, having heard Stella's words, had his momentum weakened somewhat. Father was also deceived by the bad woman. Father knows he was wrong. So he knows. He knew Victor was intimate with another woman while I was pregnant. He knew Victor. While I was heavily pregnant and having a difficult birth, a near-death experience to give birth to the child, the first sentence he uttered was to force me to divorce. He even knew that after divorcing me, Victor gloriously married Bianca as an equal wife. Since he knew, he must understand initially, it wasn't that I wanted to give birth to you. Lana, Victor cried out, losing his voice. Felix was stunned, daring not to believe it. As for me, I did not stop. If I had known earlier that he had 2 hearts with that woman, even if I had to risk losing 2 lives, I would have drunk a bowl of abortion medicine. But that person called your father, hid it from me, let me give birth to you, and then forced me to divorce. You are the eldest grandson of the Shia family, and I was just an orphan with no one to rely on. Even if I risked death, I couldn't take you with me. But why did I need to take you? Since I gave birth to you, ultimately you are my child. Why would I let you suffer? I slowly recounted every event of the past years. If I really took you away, I fear, just as Stella said, you wouldn't have survived more than a year on that Silk Road. Over the years, you resented me for not asking or inquiring, but the people by your side, from the trusted servants to the wet nurse, were all people I left behind when I was still in the Shah family. They never hid anything from you. It is just that you refused to think carefully about the implications. How did you know? As long as you suffered a little grievance in the Shia family, they would write a letter sending it to me, and I would take you away. But you didn't, right? Over the years in the Shia family, you never suffered any hardship at all, so what are you resentful about? No. Felix shook his head desperately. You didn't even stay for me. Leaving a few servants counts for what? Why should I stay for you? I asked back. I have no credit for raising you, so I don't expect you to call me mother. Nor do I expect you to be close to me or argue with the Shia family to stand on my side. But at least I have the grace of carrying you and suffering the pain of birth. When I tried my best to fly towards the blue clouds, you shouldn't have dragged me down into the mud. My voice was terrifyingly calm. Felix seemed to sense something, anxiously reaching out trying to grab me. Mother. Immediately after, he was ruthlessly brushed away by me. Felix, I don't owe you, nor do I owe your Shia family. So if you want to live peacefully, get far away. If you are still entangled with me, don't blame me for acting mercilessly. That father and son pair were chased out by Stella at my command. I didn't specifically instruct her on what method to use to chase them, so she naturally did as she pleased. Truth be told, Victor ultimately once had the grace of saving me. Although both sides have settled the score, it was inconvenient for me to act against him personally. But Stella had not half a coin's worth of relation to him. So, hearing that the Shia family eldest master only came to my place to sit as a guest for a moment and then had a leg broken, it can be seen that my doorstep was truly too high, making him that careless. After the 2 left, I took the white cloth gag out of Bianca's mouth. The person who just moments ago was screaming madly, arrogant to the extreme, now having lost her restraints, instead looked like she had just gone through a serious illness, collapsing softly onto the ground. She stared blankly at the sky, giving up the struggle, her voice so small it was almost inaudible. Lana, you must be very smug, making me watch you win. The thing I begged for, but couldn't get, you discarded like a rag. You must be very smug, right? I am not happy at all. Who could be happy encountering a bunch of bad luck in the middle of a beautiful day? It is just that since she thought so, I could only say, if you think that, I have never bothered to defend myself anyway. She muttered to herself, eyes brimming with tears. But clearly, he once said the person he loved most was me. He said he would take me to see the beauty of Jiangnan, said he wouldn't let me suffer bullying anymore. Why did everything change after we got married? Nothing more than affection turning into rice, oil, and salt, having his unreachable white moonlight, yet wanting the passionate cinnabar mole as well. They began to argue, blaming each other like any other resentful couple. Many times, Bianca had not been without the thought of sitting down to talk properly, but every time, she endured to the limit. In the end, she even started to ask herself if the husband she desperately fought for, disregarding the world's gossip, was actually a mistake on her part. No, she wouldn't admit she was wrong. So she began to try hard to accommodate Victor. The light powder turned into a white face and red lips, arrogance and conceit turned into suspicion and paranoia. 7 years turned her into a ferocious, crazy figure. Clearly she got what she wanted, but she was also the one who lost this game completely. Now that she was divorced, before leaving she asked me, "Why don't you take this opportunity to exact revenge on me to vent your anger?" I didn't pity her at all, speaking truthfully. Your days ahead can only be harder to live. Knowing your life will be miserable enough, why should I waste my time dirtying my hands instead of earning silver? She laughed loudly in self-mockery, stumbling away, gradually disappearing into the night. As for the work Warren and I had to do, it had long since flowed like water forming a river. If there was a twist, it was probably that after Master Xia returned, seeing his wife angered into sickness and his only son mentally collapsed, in a fit of rage he allied with quite a few merchants, using some tricks. But it remains, as I once told Madame Xia, the reason they could still live peacefully was because I hadn't done anything yet. Now that they actively provoked me, don't blame me for retaliating. I forcefully tore away 30% of the Xia family's business, causing their decline to be exposed and their vitality greatly damaged. From then on, they obediently shrank back, daring not to act blindly again. Waiting for the grand matter to succeed, I was also preparing to leave Yunzhou to expand into bigger business. Warren came to see me off, casually mentioning a recent murder case in Yunzhou. Roughly, a husband wanted to divorce his wife but failed. Instead, he was poisoned by the wife, and both died in hatred. When the servants discovered them, there was no way to save them. That family originally had only one single son. Now that he was lost, only an eldest grandson remained. A clan like that, once it collapses, I fear will wither day by day. After listening, I only said one sentence to him: life is impermanent. Then I saw the people in the merchant caravan had been waiting for me for a long time, urging the shopkeeper, "Let's go." I immediately forgot about that matter. Turning to mount the horse, I smiled and replied, "Coming right away." This time, I brought along the wet nurse who had stayed for many years and the loyal servants. At that time, the spring sunshine was brilliant, the young grass green, and the swallows flying high. True dignity is found not in clinging to a love that has faded, but in the courage to walk away with one's head held high. Lana's journey illustrates that a woman's value is never defined by a man's validation or societal expectations. While Victor and Bianca were consumed by regret and petty grievances, Lana transformed her heartbreak into an empire. This story teaches us that the profoundest revenge is not retaliation, but indifference and success. Sometimes, to find your true destiny, you must be brave enough to sever every toxic tie, even those that once defined your entire world. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.